Somehow I...
Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Atlanta. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Zach Hill. Little civil war here. Tomoharu Saito, who's actually on the other side, versus Yuya Watanabe. We'll get the names flipped back over, but in the third round of this draft here, this is the last draft of the day, unless, of course, you make the top 8. And we are underway, Zach, with, well, not a lot going on yet, just some lands here. It looks like blue, black versus green something. Maybe we'll find out right now. Green, white.
Yeah, we saw Saito on a really aggressive strategy earlier. Blue-black, sort of the antithesis of that. Saito showing the diversity of what he can draft in the format. And
wow, is that an eye gouge? I was just thinking of
yeah.
eye gouge there. So trigger goes on the stack for Seder Grove Dancer, and that actually lets Saito use an eye gouge to essentially kill a grizzly bears, which is pretty nice. He's got to follow up with, well, a Nimbus Naiad, no bestow here, just a straight up good old Windrake.
But that makes the eye gouge, yeah, even more powerful, because now instead of just clocking back and forth in the air, 2 against 2 damage, he gets to gain initiative and be the first person to get damage on the board.
So he's going to attack with Nimbus Naiad. I saw that he has Drown in Sorrow in his hand. A little awkward here now that he has the Naiad out there, but that will survive potentially. The Triton Cavalry comes down as a 2/4. Really one of the best possible cards when your opponent plays Archetype of Courage.
Yeah, an Archetype of Courage.
That's brutal.
It is brutal. Also an enchantment creature, so if Saito is ever able to target the Cavalry, he'll be able to generate a pretty big tempo swing.
Wow, tempo swing getting bigger here too.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, he'll be able to pump that Cavalry while also getting the Archetype off the board.
And hence the Kirametra's favor too.
You see Watanabe passing the turn, not any good way to get the Archetype through the Triton Cavalry. Saito, 4 mana untapped, attacking his 2/4 into the 2/2. Has to assume his opponent probably doesn't have a combat trick, or Yuya would have just attacked. So Saito firmly the aggressor in this matchup right now.
Which is surprising. Looking at the colors, green, white versus blue, black, you would certainly assume that the white deck would be the aggressor the majority of the time. But yeah, that eye gouge has really set back Yuya since this first turn there. And he's kind of taking some beats here.
Yeah, he's kind of got the blue-black beatdown with Drown in Sorrow, kind of counterintuitive. He's got a Horizon Scholar to get through some more damage on the air, and Yuya going to really need to mount an offense. 6 points of flying damage is not easy for a green-white deck to defend against or race.
Saito looks like he's really thinking something over here. Is he considering firing off Drown in Sorrow just to kill the Archetype in the Kirametra's favor? No way, right?
I doubt that. I mean, he's looking at it, but...
Is he doing it? He's doing it.
What?
I guess he just really wants to kill the Archetype. This is really risky business, though, because the pump spell, and I was just going to say the pump spell from Yuya Watanabe.
Does Saito have a Triton Tactics? That would make a lot of this make a little bit more sense. No? Well,
no.
Goodness.
So pretty brutal there for Saito. He must have really valued keeping Watanabe off of that extra mana. And he also figured he could just wipe his board out and then follow up with the Hypnotist there. But that really, I wouldn't say it's super backfired, but that was not a great result for his play there.
No, I think he wanted to get to a 5th mana to cast Horizon Scholar. Not a lot a green-white deck can do about that. Given that your 2/1 is essentially blank in your hand as long as you're holding Drown in Sorrow, I think he thinks it's not that much of a downgrade from the Naiad, but just a Battle-Wise Valor, just huge there. I think he has to assume that Watanabe doesn't have Battle-Wise Valor because Watanabe declined to attack with the Archetype of Courage.
Yeah, that is what his assumption was, but wow. There was other cards too there too. Mortal's Ardor,
Yep.
just +1/+1 would have saved it and also would not have been a great attack. So
yeah.
Interesting play there.
And now Setessan Griffin really threatens to render the Horizon Scholar irrelevant. I mean, just a big moment last turn. Some hot ones on top of Saito's deck, though, it looks like. I admire Watanabe's choice of the Ajani Planeswalker sleeves in his green-white deck.
I like that, yeah.
Bold. We see Cavalry getting in.
Yeah, the 3-2 isn't really going to block it well, but it's funny because the Setessan Griffin doesn't match up that well with the Horizon Scholar, as it's actually just a trade in the air even if he pumps it. And of course it's a lot of mana that Watanabe has to spend just to get to that point.
It does not match up great. At the same time, though, because of the first strike from the Archetype of Courage, it is able to hold off the Horizon Scholar.
That's right.
If Watanabe is willing to commit to having that many mana up. The other thing is, with that Triton Cavalry on the battlefield, Watanabe can only be so confident that his Archetype of Courage is going to be able to stick around.
Right. It's risky business, right? If he goes for a block, decides to pump just for the trade, and the Archetype somehow isn't on the battlefield anymore, it just gets ugly, but it looks like he's going to make a little bit of an upgrade here on his Griffin, and that's going to push it over the top so that the pump is good enough, though he's not going to use it right now. He's actually going to use the mana from the Archetype of Courage plus the rest of his to make Enthausa.
Yeah, and this matchup, the tempo of it totally changed after that Drown in Sorrow. Watanabe, a lot of fat, but a second Horizon Scholar from Saito.
Yeah, I think he's going to ship a Melita Charlatan to the bottom and a Sip of Hemlock to the top, though now he's thinking, wait a minute, maybe I actually want this Melita Charlatan as well at some point here.
Definitely the truth is that you want a Sip of Hemlock.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you've got 8 points of damage in the air, your opponent at 12, you're at a healthy 18 life. You want to get that Setessan Griffin off the battlefield, start attacking with Horizon Scholars.
I think he went top-bottom there.
And actually, depending on how big Watanabe's attack is, the Sip of Hemlock taking Watanabe to 10 could mean just a straight-up lethal attack if Saito turns his board side. Oh, but a big Nylea's Disciple for Watanabe.
Yeah, Disciple gaining him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 life.
A whole lot of life.
Yeah, back up to 18. So it's going to take a little while at least. And here's Enthausa hitting the red zone. Remember, 4-5 with first strike here. So nothing really great as far as blocks go for Saito. He's at 18, though. He can take the hit.
I mean, you could, I guess, throw Cavalry and 2 Horizon Scholars in front of it and hope that Watanabe doesn't have another trick. I mean, I can't imagine Watanabe has that many, but I think it's too. I mean, you just lose the game if Watanabe has anything. So.
Right, and the downside of taking 4 damage here is significant, but not. I mean, he's at 18.
Right.
He goes to 14. You can use his life total as a resource here.
It is pretty horrifying if you're assuming, you know, that he doesn't have a combat trick right now, but he could draw one, to be threatened by 3 more 2/2 attackers once you're all the way down to 14 life. I mean, that would be 8 creatures from Watanabe's side of the board attacking you. All of which have first strike.
The thing if he's got Sip of Hemlock on the top of his library, though, he wants to kill the Griffin, put him to 16, attack him for 8, put him to 8, and say go. Right? Like, come up with something. You've got a turn.
I agree with you. That's exactly what you want to do. You do not want to lose one of these Horizon Scholars right now. I mean, maybe Saito's thinking about chump blocking, but yeah, I think you just take the damage. Because yeah, 16 is the magic number. I mean, I guess he's saying the game is going to be all about this Sip of Hemlock, so I'm going to chump as much as I can to lower the risk.
And there it is, Sip. And we're going to need to see a Johnny's Presence or something from Yu Yu Watanabe, and he doesn't have it.
Yep,
so Griffin down, take 8. And here's plan A.
And it is a how much power can you produce on this attack step.
Right.
He has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That's going to do it. Tomohiro Saito finishes it off and wins the first game.
Really well sculpted game for Saito. I mean, you know, wasn't looking good with that Griffin being able to hold off the Horizon Scholar indefinitely. A lot of power on Watanabe's side of the board, but goes to show exactly how powerful Evasion is against a green-white deck.
Yeah. A little weird at the beginning there with the Drown in Sorrow, but he managed to find a really nice line there with the double 4/4 flyers to finish off Watanabe, even after it looked like he had stabilized and actually was in attack mode.
And it may have been that Saito just said, like, this game's going to be about Horizon Scholar. But, yeah, I mean, it looked like a self-blowout to me.
All right, so here's Huey Jensen. Looks like he's already up a game versus Nathan Holiday. These guys have been at the top tables all day long. Returned Reveler for Jensen, not a super great card.
Not a spectacular card. See another return, although this game's going to go long is what we're seeing right now. The winner of this match, Marshall, does make the top 8.
Oh, so this is a winning in right here.
Oh, man.
And both the weapons that these gentlemen have chosen to take into battle, Return Revelers. Let's
Return
fight.
Revelers setting up for Read the Bones quite nicely, though, ensuring that the tempo loss of having to give your turn to not affecting the board at all and paying 2 life, not going to punish you too hard, playing solid defense, and puts Jensen well ahead in the long-term resource battle.
Yeah, sometimes you need a 2-drop. Harvest Guard Alceids off the top for Huey. You see that Holiday's got an Ilea's Presence hiding down there, so that's going to open up the door for all different types of things that he wanted to splash. But Harvest Guard Alceids. Go.
Yeah, interesting. Holiday has got access to 4 mana, including any color combination of colors that he wants, and just didn't have a 4th turn play. Doesn't really look to be deploying a lot to the battlefield. Looks like he's probably got a lot of reactive cards in his hand. I see a Feast of Dreams. Could target the Alceids, but that's not terribly exciting. You probably want to save that for a juicier target. You can just block the Alceids. You don't really mind taking 1 a turn. Yeah, I see that, though. You're willing to use a far less good removal spell than Feast of Dreams to get rid of the 2/3.
Here's a big one. Well, not too bad. Mistborn Eidolon's going to make that Return Reveler a respectable creature. 3/4, it's going to battle.
And not the worst target for Feast of Dreams there, but again, it's just trading with a Reveler. So, I mean, it saves you 3 damage, and that 2/1 you're going to be able to block all day. But again, Holiday saying, okay, I can probably find something a little bit better to do with this. Trying to figure out what the other cards in Holiday's hand are. Is that a Raised by Wolves or something else? Is that maybe Pharika? The aggressive hand shuffling, making it harder to quite figure out what the answer is. I think it is Pharika, yeah.
Well, that would be interesting.
Not any creatures in the graveyard right now. Only 3 out of 7 Devotion, but Holiday not on too big of a clock, so.
Well, it's interesting, though. Those Return Revelers now become a lot more interesting because they mill.
Yeah, they juice up the graveyard to give Pharika plenty of food.
Of course, you have to remember that Pharika, you only really want to remove your own creatures with Pharika.
Right.
Unless there's some dire situation. But generally speaking, you want the snakes for yourself.
Yeah, you want the one to be the one with the 1/1 Death Touch Enchantment Snakes.
Which are insane, by the way.
Yeah, they're so good.
I mean, that's a full card that we play very regularly in this format.
Yeah, people take 1 mana 1/1 Death Touch like 1st through 4th pick.
Yes, and there's 2 different ones in the format, and they both get play.
Right.
So.
You're not excited to first pick a Pharika's Chosen, but we saw Luis, I think, take 1 2nd or 3rd like earlier in today.
All right.
Okay, and
Feast of Dreams is going to take down, and here we go. Let's make some food. 2 out of 3, not too bad.
Nom, nom, nom.
Yeah, Voyaging Satyr Nyxborn Wolf for Nathan Holiday. And he doesn't quite have enough mana left over to actually make a snake yet, but he's got it now, so.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway from what you're saying, Marshall, is just that, you know, it's easy to look at the card and say, oh, 1/1 tokens, but the difference between a 1/1 and a 1/1 Death Touch is far, far more than a keyword ability. A 1/1 Death Touch value is close to a card. A 1/1 is like a third of a card. I mean, it's just not the same. It's just no comparison.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that a 1/1 Death Touch in this format is a full card. It's just your 3rd 1/1 Death Touch maybe isn't quite a full card, but still, they're all good. I mean, they all keep attacking, too.
Right, that's the thing, is that Death Touch usually viewed as a defensive ability, able to hold off big creatures, Vulpine Goliaths, you know, Nessie Nasps, so forth, but they're actually really, really hard to block profitably as well.
Yeah, especially when you have a whole bunch of them. Yeah, it's nice.
And we can't forget, of course, that Pharika can always just decide to come to battle herself. Going to take a lot more permanence from Nathan's side of the board to make that happen, but the longer the game goes, the more likely it is.
Wow,
well,
Huey's got some real windmills in his hand here. He's got Eater of Hope, but I think he's also got Silence the Believers in hand.
Now, the thing about that Eater of the Hope, though, we see a time defeat from Holiday, so we can just make some snakes, attack, get in some damage, and time to feed away the Eater of the Hope without costing himself a card.
All right, so I think the judge is digging up some
Enchantment
some
snake
enchantment
tokens.
snake, black green, yeah.
Hiss. And I see another exile into Antiquity, whatever's fade into Antiquity.
Correct.
I see another one of those. I see a time defeat. I can't make out the third card from Holiday's side of the board, but it looks like a spell. Oh, and that's an Eye Gouge, I think, from Holiday.
Yep.
That he just drew. Oh, and Farika's Cure. Okay, no enchantment snake tokens, but those cards look black-green enough,
Yeah.
I think.
All right, let's head back to our main feature here. We're back underway with Tomoharu Saito versus Yuya Watanabe. And looks like a little bit of a slow start here for both of them, though. That's not too bad at all. Wingseed Rider on turn 3 for Watanabe, and no removal spell from Saito, at least yet. Melita Charlatan, though, is going to do a nice job of getting in there for a while, and then maybe even giving Saito some extra value in a little while.
We saw that card do pretty good work this weekend. We saw it copy a Rise of Eagles. Pretty powerful.
That's awesome.
Saw
It's
it.
a lot of mana, but it's still awesome.
Yeah, saw a copy of Divination.
Oh,
Straight up 4 cards.
That's dreamy. A little
Not weak.
took the opportunity to do that. So here's Karametra's Favor, which is going to make Wingseed Rider into like the best Birds of Paradise ever. 3/3 flying, taps for a mana, but in this case it's just beating down.
Yeah, you can't expect for it to tap for too many mana, most likely, just because 3 in the air is so powerful. But Watanabe has that option if he wants to power out something like a Vulpine Goliath. Now we're seeing Saito, the Guardians of Meletus, great 0-6, good at gumming up the ground, not so good at gumming up the air, and looks like this is his last land drop. Not going to be casting Sea God's Revenge unless he rips back-to-back lands.
Yeah, he's going to play a Forlorn Sudama instead, which isn't the most efficient card, but it's actually going to be able to get in a little here, and if Saito wants to use his mana, he can start making 2/2 zombies. The downside here, though, is that Saito, he's going to lose this race. That's just too slow at this point. He needs to have the board more stable. So I know he's got Sip of Hemlock in his hand, so he's sort of working his way up to be able to kill the Wingseed Rider. And a nice draw here from Yuya. He's got Setessan Griffin to join in the air, now giving him 6 power in the air. He's 1 pump spell away from a 2-turn clock here.
Yeah, and Saito needed that 6th land, not just for Sea God's Revenge, but for Sip of Hemlock, which he has in his hand. Without that extra mana, going to be really hard to stop this air force. You know, you're not used to green-white being the deck attacking in the air over blue-black, but that looks like exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, Saito needs his 5th land.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's way behind here.
I mean, I still think you attack with a Sudema. It's not going to do a whole lot else. You're very willing, I think, to trade the Charlatan for the Griffin, so I think you get in for 4, but yeah, I mean, you're taking a lot of damage in the air, and at 14, the Setessan Griffin's ability actually very relevant.
Yeah. You can just activate it 1 single time, and that's going to make a 2-turn clock here.
Setessan Griffin, a card whose stock, I think, has gone up in value. In Triple Theros, I think a lot of the white decks were essentially what amounted to heroic aggro combo decks. Now that the format's slowed down, I mean, Setessan Griffin's a 5-power flyer if you're in green-white. I mean, you know, it's
yeah,
pretty
I like dragons.
powerful card. Yeah.
All right, so Saito's going to buy himself some time here, though, with a Grip Tide. That's going to knock back the Wingsteed Rider. It's going to get the mana ability off of it, and of course the counter falls off as well. So a really strong play there from Saito to buy himself the time he needs to find those land drops, though the beats keep coming here for you, Watanabe, who's going to use up a good chunk of mana here by playing Nylea's Disciple, gaining him a couple more life after getting in for 3 with the Griffin.
I will say I love making a 2/2 zombie on Saito's untap step. I know he only has 4 mana, but that allows the Charlatan and the 2/2 to gang up to block Nylea's Disciple and stem some of this bleeding. Saito at 11 has just got to preserve his life total until he draws lands to get an answer to these flyers. I think that any ground creatures, you're willing to just trade what you have right now. Those aren't the threats. The flyers are the threats. But that's not what he goes for. We see Drown in Sorrow again being just not that awesome, killing one of Saito's creatures. I mean, it can get the Griffin off the board. I think you're willing to lose your Sudema just to get that Griffin away and scry to an extra land, but every single time we see him casting Drown and Sorrow, he's 2 for 1-ing himself, so that's why he elects not to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just super risky, right? I mean, you just got 2 unknown cards in hand, 1 known card. He's got the Wingsteed Rider, but any 2 of those could be a pump spell to save the Griffin, and then Saito's just hopelessly behind at that point.
That's true. I mean, I think
maybe it's time to take that risk, but
Saito's dream scenario, I think, is that Watanabe runs Wingsteed Rider out there and doesn't leave up mana to pump Setessan Griffin. The thing is, he saw Drown in Sorrow game 1 and knows about it. So I don't think he's going to just walk into a situation where Saito can get out of it with a mass, get out of the biggest problem he has, which is all these evasive creatures, with a single mass removal spell.
Exactly.
That said, the Cavalry still allows him to stem some of the bleeding from the Nylea's Disciple. Looks like Watanabe going to have to choose between attacking for 3, attacking for 5, or playing that Rider, even if he has a 7th land. But because of the Drown in Sorrow, I can't imagine Watanabe wanting to activate the Griffin right now.
Saito's at 11. Yuya's pretty close here. If he were to activate almost half of Saito's life total, he's not going to do it. Instead, he's going to follow up with the second Nylea's Disciple. And you called it, Zach. He's not going to play into it. You know, the Wingsteed Rider, by all accounts on this board, is a better creature. It can actually attack in the air and it help advance the clock. But Yuya, he knows about the possibility of Drown in Sorrow and would much rather not play into it.
Saito right now, again, trying to figure out whether he wants to activate the Sudema's ability. Again, with those 2 Nylea's Disciples, I think you really need an extra 2/2 here. You can't really even profitably cast Drown because of what we saw last game was just getting your absolutely blown out by Battle-Wise Valor. But I mean, that may be what Saito has to do, given that he keeps missing land drops. And I think you, at a certain point, oh no, I guess not. That neutralizes one of the Nylea's Disciples. And Saito just falling further and further behind without any extra lands to get the Sea God's Revenge or Sip of Hemlock online. And, you know, Revenge, one of the most powerful blue cards in the format, but the last thing you want to do is give your opponent even more life off those Nylea's Disciples.
Interestingly here, Yuya does not pump, so he's left up lethal in the air with that Griffin potentially. But he did play the Wingsteed Rider out there and leave 3 mana up with 3 cards in hand. So can Saito Drown in Sorrow to just get rid of the 2?
I mean, that's what you have to do if you're Saito. I mean, you just jam it right now. Okay. Oh my goodness.
Wow. Reap what is sown. And that is going to prompt a concession. Yuya Watanabe, fully aware. You see the smile from him there. He's happy that that worked out. He was fully aware of Drown in Sorrow every single step of the way. The only reason he played that Wingsteed Rider is because he had a backup plan to save it. Great stuff there from 2 top pros from Japan. Back over to Huey Jensen, who apparently still up a game against Holiday. This is that same game we were watching. Can that be?
I mean, Farika, yes, sitting there just doing some work. We see the 5/6 giant. What you have to do if you're Huey and you have all these ground pounders, just try to run your opponent out of creatures. I mean, there's only so many. We see, man, Underworld, Cerberus there. Holiday has a lot going on with the graveyard, but I mean, otherwise, you know, I mean, you got to deal with the snakes somehow.
Right. Wow. So brutal. Trading a snake for a Kori Colossus.
We see Satyr Wayfinder chanted by, what is that, -2/-0, it can't block. Prevents it from jumping and getting into the graveyard, casting in the darkness, yeah. Probably the best possible way of neutralizing a Wayfinder, but yeah, 1/1 Death Touch the hard way.
Yeah, the hard way. Actually has to use a card to cast it, even though he's got a fairly steady stream of them.
Well, and that does provide a green mana symbol to turn on Farika.
And there's Fade into Antiquity onto whatever it was that was enchanting the Fellhide Minotaur.
I believe that was a Erebos Emissary.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, big game.
That's a big one.
So, Nathan Holiday, 4/7 of the way to turning Farika on, has at least one creature in his graveyard. And that's a flyer. It's 5-mana 2/3, not the best rate on that flyer, but it is a card that can get through the wall of Death Touch snakes. And I think if you're Nathan, yeah, you go ahead and activate Farika, start getting on the offensive with some 1/1s.
That was Underworld Cerberus that just got exiled. So Nathan Holiday going deep here into the graveyard.
We still see him with a Farika's Cure that he had in his hand way earlier on when we were first watching this game. So looks like it's been a lot of Farika activations.
Yeah.
Then we finally found some proper snake tokens.
Oh man, that's good because I like that token.
It's a pretty sweet token. Also, it's actually kind of relevant because the card is a black and green enchantment creature with Death Touch.
Yeah.
Easy to forget any one of those attributes. Oh, and wow, a big Scholar of Athreos
yeah,
there
this
for
is
Jensen.
Huge.
So that means that every single turn, Jensen going to be able to drain Holiday for
4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that is hard to beat.
Yeah. 4/4 unblockable lifelink.
Well, yeah, and you know,
basically.
essentially, yeah, Farika usually one of the best ways to gain inevitability in this format, but does not hold a candle to Scholar of Athreos.
Yeah, that's insane. I wonder if there's a way that that Holiday can get Farika into creature mode. Right now, he's got 4 mana symbols that count. He needs 3 more. That's one way you can mitigate that at least, is start beating down for 5.
I think, yeah, and he has a feast, or no, he's got Farika's Cure, so he can try to get Holiday
that Hunter's
to block.
Prowess?
That is Hunter's Prowess.
Oh, baby. On a snake, remember, trample plus death touch is a very happy interaction. He's going to get to draw either 4 or 3 cards here, assuming nothing happens to that snake.
I guess he could only draw 2 if Huey wants to double block, but
That's true, but he would lose both creatures.
yeah, I can't imagine you're willing to lose Scholar of Athreos here.
Not just for 1 card. Why do you think you did it on the snake token as opposed to the scorpion? Don't you want the scorpion in your yard? Let's say Huey has something or whatever to deal with it.
Well, and that's, I think the reason is because you want it on defense. It's probably not going to die as an attacker.
Gotcha.
And you want it to die, so I think you're leaving it back in case it needs to block the Minotaur or can threaten to block Scholar.
Okay, I think Huey might actually have 0 cards in hand. I know he doesn't hold any. He doesn't usually set them down, so I think he might just be out of cards here anyway.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, I think he's all in on the Scholar plan.
Right.
And really, I think Scholar is basically about what you could want to do. I mean, having extra cards in hand is just a drawback right now.
All right,
might make the wrong play.
Let's go back to our main feature here. It looks like we're nicely underway there. With Saito off to a quick start here. Looks like he went for the old 2-3-4 for us there, Zach. Not too bad, but a nice 4-drop from Yuya Watanabe. Ooh, it was nice until its eye just got gouged out.
Yeah, and what we saw there was the Deepwater Hypnotist shrinking the Centaur, so the 2 damage from the Charlatan plus the 1 from the eye gouge is able to finish it off. Just a blistering fast
beating,
start.
yeah. I think that you just see the way that Yuya passed the turn back. It was pretty flippant. I don't think he's got a whole lot. Well, this could help. It's going to put him back up to 7 if it resolves, but I think I see a Bile-Blight in hand here.
Yeah, I mean, just the best possible draw from Saito. We see 2, 3, 4. The Hypnotist, which enables the rest of his creatures to attack, Bile-Blight to clear the way.
What is he thinking about? Don't you kill it with the ability on the stack?
I think so, yeah. I mean,
if Yuya didn't have anything last turn on 5 mana, this is probably the best thing he can do.
I mean, I guess you could say, okay, that doesn't matter much because I'm just going to shrink it with a Hypnotist and I want to be conservative and make sure I don't need to use it on something else.
Good point, and play around a combat trick of some sort. Yeah, it's not there though, and Yuya Watanabe has to extend the hand as Saito improves to 13-2.
And this is a pretty big moment for Saito. Saito, you know, a former just all-star of the Grand Prix circuit, some absurd number of top 8s. This would be his first
PT top 8?
what?
I think he has 5.
Yeah, I think he does.